So this is Ben Littlewood here for Inside Audio. I'm here with Bryce Young, owner, founder of Warm Audio. And in this lovely location, come to talk a little bit about the new products and a little bit about the background of why Warm have decided to make such a great looking box, if I may say so.
Thank you, and thanks for having me. Never been to the Netherlands before, and beautiful. It's been a lot of fun and very exciting.
Yep. So I've known Bryce for a while, and I remember a long time ago him mentioning that he was considering these preamps, but that was quite some time ago. So what happened in the period in between? Busy with other stuff?
Yeah, I mean, as you've seen, we're not slow to release new products. We've been coming out with quite a lot. Yeah, I think we just got distracted with some other really cool recreations that the market wanted more,
yeah,
that we felt like people were asking about. But yeah, I had my eye on this one. I always loved the look of the original vintage 351s. I'd seen them online and things like that. I'd seen the tape recorders that they were in, and I just always had my eye on it. And I had read some articles of people that owned them and used them, and everybody loved them. And so, yeah, it was one I wanted to do because I feel like maybe not as many know about this as maybe.
So you mentioned
types.
the 351, but so what is that? What's the 351?
So the 351 was a model of preamp that was in a tape recorder in the 1950s. So it came out in 1958 originally. It was used by people like Bing Crosby and Elvis Presley and things like that. And it's an extremely powerful mic pre that was put into these tape recorders, but people maybe didn't think about like, ooh, beautiful mic pre. It's like they were just looking at the whole tape recorder as a whole. But they're tube based, so you've got 3 vacuum tubes per channel. You've got input and output transformers. You've got 90 dB of gain.
Wow. They
run on 300 volts of power. So pretty just all around vintage, exciting, tubey piece of gear.
Okay, okay. And when you guys look at old vintage equipment, I'm assuming then you have to get the original and take it apart, look at it, and...
Yeah, we usually do that. Also the schematics and diagrams and everything are really available. The technology is no longer patented or considered special anymore, and so we can go ahead and just remake it, and we love doing that.
And are there some things that you can't remake because it's no longer available, or just not made anymore, or?
That's a really good question. Yeah, sometimes parts are not available, and finding a replacement part's tough. And so there are projects we've had to drop and say, we can't do this. Usually we can find somebody to make a replacement part that's going to work just
so you
as
do
well.
that as well, if necessary?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, okay. And so what is the biggest challenge in order to produce something like this? I mean, you know.
Yeah, you know, there's always issues when laying out a PCB for a new product. I mean, you'd think, oh, you know the circuit, you can look it up online. You just put it together and it's going to work, but there's always challenges, you know, with board layout, and you know, maybe a tolerance on a component was different that we chose versus the original, and it caused something strange to happen in the final result. So, you know, usually we just start out by let's pick great components. You know, I mentioned Cinemag or input and output transformers. There's Cinemags in these, which we're very proud to use in a lot of our products. So we start out with great components, put it together, and then let's see how it sounds. Let's see how it tests.
Yep.
And then if there are issues, dig in and figure it out from there.
Okay. Because a lot of people would love to have old vintage gear, and even if you end up being able to get it, sometimes you're a bit disappointed that it makes a lot of noise or doesn't work properly, or so how do you translate kind of the old vintage gear into something that does work every day and doesn't break down every fourth session, and you know,
yeah, I mean the biggest thing is it's new, right? So the switches aren't old.
It's not 50 years old.
Yeah. Capacitors aren't old, things like that. But yeah, there are some things that we do to improve upon the old design. We don't like changing the design much because we don't want to say, hey, it's a 351, but not really. We changed everything about it. We want to say that the core of this circuit is identical to that 351 circuit, but we did a couple things like You know, when you switch between the different inputs on the front,
Yep.
microphone, line, instrument, there was like a little bit of a popping noise, so we put relays inside. So as you're switching, it's disengaging the audio for a second. Yeah, there's some things that we did where I think it'll last longer. The LED bulbs in the original light bulbs by the meters would go out. Well, we're using LEDs, right? So there's some things that should help it last longer.
Okay. And for people that weren't around when Bing Crosby was releasing records, how would you describe the sound of this? What's, you know, if I'm looking for a different flavor of mic pre, what does this give me that, you know, is different, or just how does it sound?
Yeah, great question. So the original was hardwired to work at 90 dB of gain all the time. And so if you didn't need that much gain...
So not variable, just on?
Well, sorry, no, my mistake. I'll explain that a little bit better. So on ours, we actually have the ability to go to a low gain setting. We have a high gain and low gain setting.
Okay.
The low gain setting removes one of the 12AX7 triodes out of the circuit and drops the circuit down 20 dB of gain. Okay. So in a situation where you may not need a lot of gain, the noise floor is starting significantly lower in that setting. That said, I absolutely love having it in high gain mode because that additional triode adds a little bit more vintage tone and color. But to answer your question, what it might sound like, it's very wide and open sounding. It's pretty clear as well. Okay. It's definitely not transparent, but it's clear. It's like, wow, for a tube mic pre, I'm hearing every detail. I've got great low end, I've got great top end response. They also used a feedback winding in the circuit to help with THD and distortion as you get to the higher gain levels. Okay. That said though, we've incorporated some cool features to allow you to get more color and tone out of the product. Okay. So we've got a variable input impedance switch on the transformer, which we do on all of our products. You might know on our preamps. We call it tone. Yep. We want people not to say, well, what impedance should my mic need? We want them to plug it in and try. Which impedance setting do you think sounds cool?
So that will depend which mic you put in, that will change.
Absolutely.
Yep. Yep. Okay.
So we've got that. We've also got a tape saturation function. You know, because originally these recorded directly to tape. So how can we have it sound like it's recording to tape? And that feature is a little bit more complicated to use while tracking, because if I'm singing and then I sing loud, I could distort that because it's an additional circuit we added inside that starves the voltage a little bit and creates a compression sound with the tube. Okay. So I really like that feature on the 2-channel unit. Maybe after a mix is finished, you can run it through and get the tape saturation dialed in.
So you can choose line level.
Correct, yes.
Put your mix through it again and then tweak to taste sort of thing.
Yep. We also you know, have the ability to drive the tubes if you want to go crazy with the tubes, because you've got the output control, which the original had that as well. But it's a very versatile preamp. I say start in low gain mode, tone switch off, try it clean or in its cleaner settings. See what you think, and then if you want a little more tubes or a little more tone or a little more saturation or a little more drive, you got the best of both worlds. Okay.
So this is, apart from being a great sounding mic pre, it's something you could use as a coloration box after the fact, or reamping or whatever.
Yeah, it's funny. We let an engineer in one of our studio sessions borrow this for a while. And I came back and said, so what do you think? He's like, I love it. I love it so much. And I was like, okay, what do you love? He's like, well, let me show you what I recorded. And everything he recorded, he was just driving so hard, it was distorting and saturating. And it was just like it was like a punk rock kind of record where he just wanted it to sound super gritty. And I was like, did you use it clean at all? He's like, no. He's like, I used it like an effects pedal. I think it was great.
Okay.
Like, okay.
Okay, so it can do that as well. Yeah, okay. Great stuff. Okay. And so there's a single channel version, stereo. Is it stereo or just dual channel?
Dual channel.
Okay. Okay, so there's no linking.
No linking or anything.
Okay. All right. Okay. And it's just been released, so you know, we're hoping that the feedback and the people wanting to use it are going to get a really good vibe from it. And
yeah, I think the history is pretty incredible. Like if you look back at how WAMPX started in the 40s, and Les Paul, we all know the name Les Paul.
Yeah, yeah.
He was actually the first to pioneer overdub recording, and he worked with AMPX tape machines. He then actually worked with them later to develop one of the very first multi-track tape recorders.
Yeah.
And so there's some really fascinating history. If you watch these videos, he actually used to record his guitar to one tape machine, and then play that back to another tape machine while his wife would sing over it. And then he'd play the vocal and the guitar back to the other and throw another guitar lick. So he actually released a song in 1952 that had 12 guitar parts and 12 vocals.
Okay.
And people were just like,
how
did you, all the vocals are your wife. How is this possible? So there's some really fascinating history, but let's say none of that history existed. Let's say Warm Audio just said, here's a great vintage style tube mic pre. The value you get in these boxes for the price point is just absurd. I mean, you're getting Cinemag transformers, which are used in like API consoles, right? They're used in retro designs, $4,000 compressors. You're getting 90 dB of gain if you ever want it or need it. You're getting 300 volts of power. There's nothing on the market built like this with great components, the vintage way, the way they really did used to do it, not pretending like it, but really the way they used to do it. At this price point, it's just kind of unheard of. And so if you're in the market for a tube preamp of any kind, whether it's the cool one that Les Paul used or not, there's just a ton of value. And that's what we do, as you know. We just want to pack a ton of value in a box and make somebody go, for that price, I get all of that, and it's a no-brainer, right?
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for your time, and I think it's very clear, you know, people need to go out and try this, play around with it, and have fun, make music, right?
Absolutely, that's the point.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.